Starfield is Bethesda Game Studios' first new universe in 25 years, and there's no doubt an enormous amount of excitement building up for this game. Now, Bethesda is far from being the perfect gaming studio, but they have been responsible for the birth of some of the most beloved and expansive gaming franchises in existence. And if you ask me, there's something to be said about that. In today's video, I'm going to break down everything we've learned about this mysterious upcoming galactic RPG set to release on November 11th of this year. Chapter markers will be below. For more Starfield content, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Let's jump on in. Starfield is a next-generation single-player role-playing game, where you can be who you want, go where you want, and not only just experience the stories that the devs lay out for you, but also forge your own. You'll be playing as a space explorer, part of a team called Constellation, and you'll be trying to uncover the mysteries of this new universe. Constellation is a major organization in this game, and it's been referred to as the last group of space explorers. There's plenty of other groups and factions though, and I'll get into those later in the video. In Starfield, there will be alien races, weird dangerous creatures, and also beautiful environments that you'll discover. But the game is also going to be grounded in some realism, especially when it comes to exploration. Here's a quote from Matt Serafano, Starfield's art director. "It's got a more realistic, science-based backing to it, whereas Skyrim is sort of an epic fantasy. This is a more grounded game, in a grounded setting about exploration. I think that gives us a different take on how we make everything." Todd Howard, the game's director, even visited SpaceX not only for just inspiration, but also to see and learn about real space tech systems that can be used and referenced in Starfield. Starfield will be playable in both the first and third-person perspectives, which is of course how several of the Elder Scrolls games are. And actually, the easiest way to think of what this game may be like is to think of Skyrim in space. Now, this is of course referring to how the game will work from an overall perspective, not the game's actual setting. Skyrim and space are words that were spoken on several occasions by Todd Howard himself. We were also told that we should expect to be able to interact with most objects in the world like we could in Skyrim and the previous games. Starfield will of course be open world, or should I say open worlds, and you'll be exploring with unparalleled freedom across a vast universe that consists of several different planets. What really caught my interest, though, is that we're told that this game is going to be a bit more hardcore than previous Bethesda RPGs. A fairly common complaint among veteran Elder Scrolls players is that Skyrim was a bit too simplified or streamlined when compared to the prior Elder Scrolls games. I think many of us assume that Bethesda would only continue down this streamlined route with future releases, but after hearing this...
A lot of us have been doing this for a long time together, and it's nice with Starfield to go back to some things we didn't do, the backgrounds, the traits, the defining your character, all of those stats. And I think there's so many games now that do those things that people are ready for something that does a lot of the things that, you know, older hardcore RPGs, some that we used to do, doing those again in a new way.
I'm now inclined to believe that we should expect a much deeper experience in terms of the depth of various systems and mechanics in the game. To me personally, this is music to my ears. Todd mentioned character backgrounds, traits, and the true defining of your character, things that RPG lovers tend to greatly value in their games. Bethesda even brought up the old Oblivion system for dialogue persuasion, and even though you shouldn't expect to see that exact minigame system, they do aim to have more risk and more contemplation on the player's part in terms of how they choose to interact with NPCs. There's not going to be a clear right answer like you see in many games. Todd even said that the systems and dialogue in Starfield are some of the most successful systems they've had to date. While on the topic of dialogue, we were told that Starfield has over 150,000 dialogue lines, which is more than double that of Skyrim. Now let's talk a bit about this new universe, which Bethesda is calling the Settled Systems, and also talk about the factions. The Settled Systems are located in a relatively small pocket of the Milky Way galaxy, approximately 50 light-years away from our very own solar system. In the year 2310, the two largest factions in the Settled Systems went to war with each other in the Colony Wars. These two factions are the United Colonies and the Freestar Collective. The United Colonies represent the future of the Space Republic idealized, and they are the most powerful military political faction in the settled systems. They are based out of their capital city that goes by the name of New Atlantis, which is a sprawling mecca that Bethesda describes as a true reflection of the future of our world. This city is comprised of residents of every race, creed, and ethnicity from all around the settled systems. The Freestar Collective is the faction you'll want to join if you want to live out a space western fantasy, and it's comprised mostly of people that live out on the frontier. It's a loose confederation of 3 distinct star systems, with its headquarters residing in the city of Aquila. Aquila City has large walls around its perimeter, and Bethesda says it's for good reason, as stepping outside of the walls means facing the deadly Ashta, which are alien predators that are a cross between a wolf and a velociraptor. Aquila is home to a variety of different people, but they all believe in the sanctity of personal freedom and individuality. 20 years later, in the year 2330, which is the year that Starfield takes place in, these 2 major factions are now experiencing an uneasy peace, but the key word is uneasy. It's likely that both of these factions are still in many ways competing to see who can imprint their way of life on the other. There's also several other human factions in the settled systems. The Ecliptic Mercenaries, the Pirates of the Crimson Fleet, the Violent Spacers, House Varun, and Ryujin Industries are confirmed to be some of the larger, more prominent factions that you can join, but we've also seen evidence of other groups such as the Xenofresh Corporation, MAST, SysDef, Vanguard, and Nova Galactic. It's possible that a few of these may fall underneath other factions, or they may not be joinable at all. Let's go over a few of them that we do have information on. The Crimson Fleet is a loose confederation of individual pirate captains that disrupt the operations of both the United Colonies and the Freestar Collective. Emil Pagliarulo, the design director for Starfield, said that even though the Crimson Fleet is technically an evil faction, you could still be a good person in the game and join them. There will be the possibility of playing out a role such as a space cop and reporting information back to another faction. The Ryujin Industries faction represents the corporate life, and to join them, you basically gotta get hired. One of the devs said that this faction has one of the best starts of any of the faction stories. In this concept art, we can see a neon sign that says Ryujin Industries. House Varun is a faction of religious fanaticals. The Xenofresh Corporation built and owns the city of Neon. This city started out just as a giant fishing platform, but once they discovered fish with psychotropic properties, this faction turned into a mega corporation, and the City of Pleasure was born. The drug that can be made from these fish is called Aurora, and it's only legal in the city of Neon. Now people will come from all over the settled systems to get the experience of this enthralling city. SysDef, which likely stands for Systems Defense, and Vanguard are described as committed to ridding the United Colonies of these parasites. And parasites likely refer to the Crimson Fleet faction, which are those evil space pirates. Perhaps these 2 factions are some form of private military contractors that are hired by other factions, in this case the United Colonies, to carry out dangerous tasks. Nova Galactic appears to be the faction or company that built Frontier, which is the name of the spaceship in the cinematic trailer. Moving on, let's talk about companions. There's not much information on this subject, but we do know that there will be companions, and it seems like Bethesda is leveling up the companion system a bit from the Skyrim days. Bethesda is giving us the impression that this robot will likely be one of these companions.
Hello, Captain. How may I be of assistance?
Todd said that something that they really leaned into with this game is how other characters will feel about you. Expect companions to make some off-the-cuff comments on what you're doing or what you've done, and also what's going on around you. Other quick things that were mentioned were romance being in the game, even though they didn't elaborate on it at all, and they also plan on having mod support. They didn't say mods specifically, but it's pretty clear that this is what they were referring to.
Yeah, I feel like our games sort of have 2 lives, right? Like, we create this game, and we put everything we can possibly put into it, tell the stories we want to tell, and build this world that's sort of a setup that when we hand it off to the players, they play it, but then they take it and make it their own. They tell their own stories, and then they make their own stories with our tools.
And that will be it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said before, if you're interested in more Starfield content, consider hitting that subscribe button. as I do plan on making Starfield a big part of this channel, especially as the year goes on and we get closer to release. If you're interested in participating in some galactic conversations, I'm also leaving a link to this community's Discord server below in the video description, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.